Hey YouTube land, Tycondrius there, doing another action figure review. Now today we're doing a 2-for-1 review, and I'm concentrating on a couple of Spawn figures. So we have a Mega figure, which is part of their mass or designer edition, which I'm not sure if we can see that here. Bring the box down. It's going to be upside down. Well, you can see it says designer edition. So I'm not sure what the difference that is, because I know we have gold label, we have platinum label, and then we have this designer edition stuff. So I'm not sure what the store is at. It's usually the gold label, platinum label are kind of store, either gold label or store exclusives, and then platinum label are kind of the chase variants. So I'm not sure what the designer edition is, but this is the box for this big guy. If I just move my camera up, it's a fairly big box, but this is the Manga Spawn box. And now I got this off eBay, and the box is pretty kind of beaten up, and it looks like it was possibly on clearance when I got it, because if you notice there, it has that kind of yellow sticker that the clearance, I think it's Walmart clearance sticker on it. So someone found this at clearance, and I managed to get it for reasonably cheaper than the normal price, which is not too bad. With shipping involved and all that, it came to about, the price it would be normally, without including shipping. So that was a bit of a saving. And then the other guy I'm reviewing is the Gunslinger Spawn. Now I think there's 3 versions of Gunslinger. This is one of the 3. I think there's one that came with a horse or they released a horse for him. I'm not sure if they did, or it could be just making that up. I'm not too sure. I know there's a different version of him with a kind of Gatling gun, but this is kind of the 2-pistol version and the Winchester style rifle version, which is actually funny. You can see it's on his backpack here. It just goes across, slung across his pack, which is kind of like a different accessory. I don't have the one with the minigun or the Gatling gun, but I do have this one. Now, his base is in the back behind the packaging, because I actually have a Spawn base out, the one that came at Manga Spawn. It's the exact same bases that come with these, so I'll just use the one for reference. But we'll bring in the figures themselves, which are these two, and we'll go through their accessories first, starting with Manga Spawn, because he is quite a big chunky lad. So he comes with 3 weapon accessories that attach to his back. They have a hole on them so they can attach. So he comes with a sword, a pole arm, and a sort of halberd type weapon. He also comes with this energy shield, which has the Spawn face logo on it. I'm not sure if you can see that in this light. He is quite a tall figure, so I'll bring in a tape measure in a minute. He does come with 2 daggers that clip into his hip. I can even get them back out. They're in there quite tight. They actually don't want to come out, but they are separate in the box. So once they're in, they're in. Don't get any problem out. There we go. You can see they peg in, so there is big pegs on them. So once they're pegged in, I think they're a bit pain in the butt to get out. Don't think he holds them too well. Can you hold them? He can hold them, actually. I mean, the handles on the other weapons are slightly larger, but he can hold, would help if I had the dagger the right way around. So you can hold the energy daggers. Most of these weapons are all kind of energy, look like they're energy based, or have some sort of energy part to them, like the halberd. Now, the plastic that they use for this is, all the plastic is the same translucent green plastic. It's just the silver parts are sprayed, or have a paint over spray on them. So mileage may vary on when you get these. You could have paint rub on this easily enough. Then his other weapon accessory is this blade, which is actually attached into his arm, and it pops out. It is on his arm when you get him. I don't remember it being separate, but he does have a good few accessories. He also has a soft goods cape, which is quite nice, and he has the peg holes here. I'm not sure if that's actually catching that on camera, so let me really adjust my camera slightly so you might be able to see those. He has peg holes here on his back, so it allows you to peg in the weapons. So you can actually store all his weapons on him, which is quite nice. So I'll pop his shield back on. You can have the shield that way, or you can rotate it whichever way you want. Now you can have the halberds, you can have the weapons pointing up, or you can have them pointing down, whichever way. Some of these are warped from having them stored on his back, and because I had stuff next to him that was lay against him. So you can put them like that on his back if you want. I kind of like having them stored upright, even though it doesn't make sense for, like, if he puts his hand up to grab him. I think it just looks kind of cool left there upright. And you can either have them all facing the same direction, or with the sword you can kind of rotate that and have kind of like a different thing going on. But he does look kind of cool with all those things kind of on his back. Excuse me. So we'll bring in a tape measure before we go through articulation on him, because he's quite a big chunky lad. So he does stand around 9¼ inches without the weapons to the tip of his helmet here, but with the weapons stored in this position or this configuration, he's nearly 12. He's just going 11 inches, 12¼ or 11¼ so just under the 1 foot mark. And I think it doesn't really matter if you rotate the weapons around. I think that might be even bigger again, or taller again. We'll rotate the weapons around. We'll pop them on his back and see if that makes a difference to the height. So I think that actually makes him slightly even taller, does it? Nope, still around, just around the 11-inch mark with the weapons in that configuration, depending on which way you want to store him. Instead, he does come to the base. So articulation wise, he's not as articulated as some of the other McFarlane figures, in the sense that he only has single jointed elbows instead of double jointed. He does have a swivel at the bicep. He does have shoulder pauldrons that are on ball joints. He has a head that is on a ball joint, so you kind of get a good range of movement. You can actually almost do it. You can do actually 360 on it, but I would advise against it because it will end up with paint rub. He does have a ab crunch, which is a waist or a swivel as well. Don't think he has anything in the waist itself. He does have ball joints in the hips. He can kind of kick forward. His armor plating and stuff gets in his way, so he kind of has to splay his leg out to the side to kind of get him into that kind of position. He does actually have double jointed knees, which is interesting. He does have these big rocker ankle things going on. Now he doesn't have the toe articulation that some of the other McFarlane figures has. And he does have some nicely sculpted details, like he has these pistons on the back that are painted. Pretty much most of his back isn't painted. Like, these would have been nice with a bit of silver on them, but you can see they did go out of the way to paint up the silver on the back of the legs at least. He does have a nice soft good cape. His shoulder guard is painted. His arms don't get the full rotation up, and they do kind of, depending on which arm. This shoulder pauldron is so much bigger, and it is on a ball joint. It would have been nice if they had hit this with a bit of a dark wash. I think it would make the sculpt pop a little bit better. But other than that, it's not too bad. He does have thigh swivel, which is rare for a McFarlane figure. And as I said, he does have that rocker ankle joint thing. So it is the big ball socket, so depending which way you have it facing, it will rock either forward or side, back and side. So, and he does have 2 peg holes on the bottom of his feet, but he has such a big foot profile anyway. If I just bend down, he has such a big foot profile, he doesn't really need the stand to help him stand, because it's pretty big. Now, one thing that is of interest to some people, maybe not everyone, his hands, his hands are on ball joints. He has that kind of standard McFarlane ball joint stuff. If his hands look somewhat familiar, it is because they share parts with one of these guys. This is the Word Bearer Chaos Space Marine. This is the gold label guy, and you can see his hand on his trigger finger hand, which he doesn't actually have a trigger or weapon that he uses a trigger finger for, is the same. His left hand, if I can just bring it out of the way here, is actually different. Let me just pop his shoulder shield thing off, or his wrist guard. His left hand is actually different. It has a similar sculpt, but it's not the same. This one is a dead share. And then the legs, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but the legs here, this section here on his legs is the exact same sculpt that they use for the Space Marines and the Chaos Space Marines from the McFarlane line. So they do share some parts, which is quite interesting. So I'll just pop his shield back in. And we do have a bit of comparison time to go through before I get on to Gunslinger. Here is the old original Manga spawn. This is part of a 2-pack one, so I know his colors are slightly different. The old Manga spawn had this kind of weird backpack gimmick that this whole backpack piece pops off. And pop it off without breaking it. So this is quite old. So this pops off, and you can see the wings tend to pop out on this thing, and his head pops up. If I can get the head to pop up, there's a spring loaded head in here which reveals kind of Spawn's head, and then this thing just connects onto this, and hopefully I don't break it because it's so old. You see the wings are very, they don't like to stick in anymore, but the old one turned into this weird scarab backpack thing, and the front and the rest of them you could still use. It was always annoying that the head didn't have his neck swivel on it. It just popped up and that was it. And he comes with a big sword. He does share one similar trait to the new one, which is this kind of bladed arm gimmick, and he has some sort of design elements like this kind of facing on the crotch area. But like other than that, he doesn't really share too much. So he's kind of unique in a way. He kind of reminds me of an armored knight suit more than a manga. So there is that. And then on to Gunslinger, who I got because I really love the design. The duster, the kind of weird hat with the skulls on it. He still kind of retains the kind of Spawn armor underneath, or the Spawn look underneath. He has these huge gauntlet things that are like spiked on both arms. He does have the kind of Spawn aesthetic where he has leather straps with the spikes coming through them. He has the heel spurs, kind of cowboy boots with heel spur with additional spikes on the front. He has that toe articulation. He retains a lot of the same articulation that most of the Spawn figures have, so he can kick forward not too much because of his bandolier and holster. He does have the dual jointed knees, which are quite nice. Just get the small bits of cobweb off him because he's been stored in a dusty place. But he does have like that cool trench coat duster thing going on. This pistol holder is an actual separate piece. You could remove it if you want. He does come with the Winchester style rifle, which has unfortunately warped itself while being in its holster. But it does fit in there quite nicely. And he comes with the dual pistols, which are like 9-irons kind of thing, or what is it, 9-iron I think they were called. They're pretty cool looking. He does have the waist swivel and the ab crunch, which this guy does not. The arms can move up that way and can rotate all the way around. They do have to kind of splay out a bit when you get to the top of the jacket, so there is that. His head is on a ball joint. You get some good range of movement on it, and you can actually see the ball joint there on that, if you can see it. But you get a good range of movement. You get some good down, good back, side to side. Like his kind of design, so he's kind of has a wind blowing effect for the collar. So it looks like he's looking in one direction, but you can articulate him to your heart's desire. And he does have that double jointed elbow, unlike this guy. You can even have him tipping his hat, which is a cool look to him. He just has all the aesthetics of a Spawn figure combined with an old Western figure, which is pretty cool, which is one of the reasons why I like this design. I do have one of the other Spawn figures, which is the Ninja Spawn, which I'm not sure if I did a review of, but I will try and get around to doing one if I haven't done a review for him. And I think that's it for most of the Spawn era figures. I do have some of the Mortal Kombat Spawn figures as well that they did. But all in all, I do like this guy. I picked this guy up from Big Bad Toy Store. I'm not sure if he's still available on that. It could be the other version, the one with the Gatling gun is still available. I'm not sure if this guy was exclusive to a store or not, but I remember seeing him and wanting that version over the one with the Gatling gun. I thought the Winchester rifle looked so much better. In fact, I'll just throw it into his hand. He does have two trigger finger hands, so he does have like the two guns. But what's cool about this guy, if I can get his gun into his hand, he is spiky as well, so just be careful. There. You can get him in a kind of a looking down the barrel sort of pose with the rifle, which is a really cool look. And I'm probably butchering this as I'm doing this, but you can get him kind of in a looking where he's shooting. If his barrel was actually straight, I might have to heat that up to re-straighten it, but you can get him looking pretty boss with his Winchester style rifle, or you can have him holding dual wielding the two pistols, which does also look pretty cool. He kind of reminds me of a mishmash of Vash the Stampede and Spawn, which is kind of cool. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video review. I tried to keep it as quick and short as possible. Just before I go, actually, just to bring in a measurement for him. So he does stand, with the hat, he stands, I think, around the 8-inch mark. So he is taller than the average Spawn figure, because most of them are around the 7-inch, but he does look pretty cool next to him. And I have a Page Puncher Black Adam, just bring him in so you can see a scale. So he does kind of tower over kind of 7-inch scale figures, but he is supposed to be a taller character as far as I'm aware, so he does look pretty good. So all in all, he's a pretty cool figure. If I can find a link from on Big Bad Toy Store, I'll throw it in the description below. And if I can find a link for Manga Spawn, which I think they might still have up on Big Bad Toy Store as well, or some of the other places I shop from, I'll throw a link for him as well. He is pretty cool. As I said, I did like getting him at a cheaper price, which isn't too bad, but it's just, he's a cool looking figure. I just wish he was a little bit more akin to the original design for the old Manga Spawn, because that had a really interesting mech design, whereas this is, don't get me wrong, it is a mech suit design, but it kind of, it doesn't just, I think it's the colors. I think it looks too bright. I think if they'd muted the blue a bit, made it darker, I think it would have popped it a bit more on it, and maybe given it a bit more washes here and there. I think it would look a bit better compared to Gunslinger. Gunslinger looks dark and gritty, whereas Manga Spawn looks a bit too brand new, if that makes any sense. And I think the shield, the energy shield, would have really popped if it had like a black wash over it, so you could see all the details a little bit easier on it. So I think that would have worked a bit better for it, but overall it is a really cool figure. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick video review for these two figures. As always, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel and help my fan base grow. Cheers, guys.